Welcome, everybody. Welcome, T-Birds, to the Career Cafe podcast. We are here today with a very special guest, Jamie Shaw. Welcome, Jamie. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So today, you selected the topic. The topic is what students can do right now to stand out when they graduate. So, luckily, you have some pretty cool experience. I was pretty impressed when poking through your LinkedIn. I'm just gonna give a couple of highlights, and you can correct me where I'm wrong. You said it might not be updated because it's been a while since we've done any job searching. So Jamie is currently the operations director at Sport5. It is a major international sports firm, right?
Mm-hmm.
You guys help cities and teams host events, from what I
Exactly.
understand.
Yes.
Okay, so you've helped with Olympics. On LinkedIn, it talked a little bit about the Commonwealth Games.
Yes.
But then you've also led global teams. We were talking about that you've worked in India, Australia, all over the world. Before that, you were a senior consultant at Event Knowledge Services, and you've also held leadership positions at the Salt Lake Olympics, Starbucks, and Verizon. Does that
Yes.
sound right?
That's right.
No,
Okay.
no small
Perfect.
potatoes.
No. And then Jamie is also one of our own. She earned her Bachelor of Business Administration from SUU, and then went on to some other school in Provo and got her MBA.
Best left unsaid.
Yeah, right.
Jamie is also our National Alumni Council president, just beginning her term.
I am.
Yeah.
I'm very
The
excited.
most important role on that whole list.
It is.
right
It is.
there.
Yeah.
It is.
So yeah, really quickly, Jamie, do you want to just walk us through? I gave a couple highlights, but walk us through your journey from the time you left SUU to kind of what led you to where you're at now.
Look, it was a lot of SUU's fault all along the way. So I had a really amazing professor here who said, maybe you should go to graduate school. And I'm from a small town. That concept had never even existed for me. But I took her encouragement and got my MBA. And then I started looking for jobs, which, you do. And I ended up in Texas, thanks to an alumni of that other school we're not mentioning, with a great job. But I got really bored after about 2 years, which I think is kind of normal out of college, right? And I really, really missed the mountains. I think it's a Southern Utah person in me. So I started looking for jobs back in Salt Lake or Utah or somewhere closer. And I found one with the Salt Lake Olympics. And I thought, oh, that would be so cool. Because I still remembered I was a college student when they announced that the games were coming. I remember thinking, oh, how cool it would be to be a part of that someday. So I thought, oh, how am I going to do this? And I remembered one of my colleagues from SUU was working there already. So I called Tosh up and I said, hey, look, this job, it's exactly the work I'm doing right now. Will you just make sure my resume gets to the right person? I know I've got the right background. I just need you to help to do that. And he did. He pulled it through.
T-Bird connection.
It's the best.
Yeah.
I got the job. Honestly, it was the best job I've ever had in my life and probably ever will have. And I was in my 20s. So that kind of sucks.
Dang. Dang, you peaked.
I was like, what do you do now?
It's all downhill.
But, the job ends because the games end. And it was fine. And then I went to Seattle to work for Starbucks, which was fantastic. I really loved Seattle, had a great time, great friends that I still am close to today. And then my boss from Salt Lake called one day and he says, hey, do you want to go to Brazil for 17 months? And I'm like, I think I have to say yes to this, even though it sounds incredibly crazy because he wanted me there in 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Gosh.
No, it was 3. But Christmas was part of that.
And this was
Okay.
with Starbucks?
I was with Starbucks. I had just taken a great new job. Honestly, there was no reason to leave other than 17 months in Brazil. Sounded really cool. So I took it and thought, I'll come back to Starbucks or something else after this is over. And that's when I went to help with the Pan American Games. And I stayed there for the 17 months. And then I stayed on and helped them with their Olympic bid for the 2016 Games. All fantastic. And that company that hired me was EKS, Event Knowledge Services. And I went to work for them. And I have stayed to work with them for now nearly 20 years. Sport5 was bought into them. So it's now
Okay.
a little bit part of
Current
the same
job.
company.
Okay.
And I have just worked a couple of years here, a couple of years there on different projects over the time. And it's been an amazing experience, for a small town girl from Utah to get to go and live and work in all these places. It's been really an amazing experience, and I've had the best time. I've learned so much.
That's awesome. Yeah, so you credited SUU a little bit at the beginning there. What did your time at SUU look like? Did you know exactly what your major was going to be from day one? you'd bounce around to 10 different colleges.
You didn't switch majors, did you?
No, look, I actually didn't.
Oh, really?
Oh my gosh.
I thought I knew, thought being the relative, exactly what I was going to do. And we had a great advisor in the business department. She had me lined up. I honestly finished my required classes, I think, in 3 years because I knew exactly what I was going to do. I don't do what I thought I was going to do, by the way. That's just not the way it usually works. But I got in, got my classes, but then I found out that you could do lots of other more fun things at SU along the way. So I got involved in student government, PBL, Alpha Phi, student alumni, all the things I started getting involved. And that's where the world really opens up. You know, if I know a lot of the students who come here are like me from very small places. You know, my high school class was 56 people. And we had been together from kindergarten on. And this small town, when you look around, there just aren't jobs. You know, you worked in the coal mine or were a teacher, or maybe like my dad, you're a banker that supports those folks. But that's all there is. And so I just kind of thought I'll go into business. My dad used to bring me home business magazines. I think he was pushing me to get a business degree silently. And it made sense. And, I thought, I'll do HR. That sounds like a nice, friendly kind of job to do. And that's what I thought I would do. And to be honest, I started my career there. But you start to realize, oh, there's more of the world out here.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was just taking a step and figuring out what you're going to do and trying it and deciding, oh, I like that part, but not that part. So where do I find more of this? And so I think we get too caught up. I know I did as a student of needing to know exactly what you need to do and going there. But the truth is the best part is that journey of bouncing around and trying different things and getting caught up in it has to be this path. It's not helpful. And I look at the people I've hired over the years and worked with, very few of them knew their exact path. It was finding their way that kind of led to really fun, more exciting adventures.
I think we can all relate to that in one way or another. I never thought I'd be where I am today, but very glad I am.
Yeah.
And I think SUU, I resonate with what you're saying with your career story, but that specifically was it a professor that said, hey, you should go to grad school? Because I'm from a tiny town, 700 people, and it's like you just don't even consider that when you come from that type of town, that type of upbringing. So, man, it's amazing what people like that can do.
It is, but you also had to take that first step, right? Which was come to a school, someplace a little bit bigger.
Yep.
Try a few things that are hard. You just have to keep taking the steps before the path's open to you and the dreams even.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm currently doing my MBA. That's kind of the same thing of just like, I always thought grad school is for rich people or it's for the really smart people. I grew up in a blue collar family. And so it was like my dad was a project manager. And so when people said, oh, are you going to grad school? It's like, no, that's not me. And now here we are. So it's kind of interesting how, getting outside of your immediate community and seeing even SUU, which is, a small school, but it's bigger than where a lot of us are from.
So you mentioned taking that step, and it comes from the small town, taking the first step to get out of the small town because it's comfortable to just stay there, right? But then taking the next step after that, going to grad school, and the next step, just making that walk, right? What would you have done differently, if anything? Because I know you said you'd never changed your major. You kind of knew what you were going to do the whole time. That definitely wasn't me. But what would you have done differently, if anything?
I think I would have tried harder things.
More difficult things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was obsessed with grades. It's not even cool to say, right? But I always thought I had to get those A's and A minuses. And sometimes you're so focused on getting the grade that you're not so worried about actually learning and taking the harder class because you want to learn it, even though it might not get you the grade you wanted. And I wish I would have focused more on just the pure learning of a few things and tried a few things. I was here recently and talking to some of the incoming student officers for SUU. So impressed with them being brave enough to run for these offices and do those things. And I was involved in student government. I just never was brave enough to run for anything. I just always found a way to get myself appointed.
That's the right way to do it, honestly.
I don't know, though, but there's something about that courage of being willing to try the hard thing, even if you fail. I think there's a process that if you're not willing to do that, you can't get anywhere. I mean, we talked a little bit about my going to Brazil. That was crazy. I had a great job in a good city. I worked for bosses who really liked me, and I could see them helping my career progress where I was at. But the chance to live and work in a foreign country, it was a really good one. And taking that leap was scary. I didn't speak the language. I knew nobody. I was going on my own,
You were
went
going
with
by
part of team.
yourself. Yeah.
In a country that at that time, maybe the reputation for safety wasn't the highest it could have been. And that was a scary thing. But sometimes you take those really scary leaps, and those are the ones that help you the most. They also sometimes are the risky ones, so sometimes they don't work out. You have to regroup.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, let's shift gears a little bit, and we'll get kind of into the topic now that we've gone through why we should listen to you. You have some experience.
If you're not convinced.
If you're not convinced after that, sorry. Okay, so what students should be doing in college to really prepare? You kind of mentioned that grades maybe aren't like the most important thing you should be focusing on. If you were in college right now and your goal was to get a job right out of college, like what would you be doing to make yourself stand out?
And I, be honest, when you gave me a list of topics, I chose this one, particularly because I have a niece getting ready to go into college this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so it felt really relevant of what I've been thinking about for her. And look, grades do matter. You have to pass.
Mm-hmm.
If you're on scholarship, you have to keep your scholarship. If you want to go to graduate school, you have to keep your grades in a way. So I can't tell you they don't matter. They do. But where do they matter, and where does everything else that you can do make a difference? You know, when you're going to college, everybody's doing the same thing. You're competing against people who are going to class just like you, getting same-ish grades as you are. So what makes you different and what makes it easier to stand out? You know, and I thought back to how I got an internship while I was my last year at SUU. It was a professor who put me in touch with somebody, and it was because I had gone and spent time with that professor, got to know them, they got to know me. You know, I took advantage of their office hours. If I was having a problem with a concept I didn't understand, I went and asked. If I wanted advice, I went and asked. You know, it seems so simple, but it's also really hard sometimes to do. But because sometimes you just want to stay under the radar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is okay. But if you want to stand out, guess where that is? Not under the radar. So you have to go and have those conversations and get to know. And that's the great thing about a school like SUU. It's still small enough, and the professors are still open enough that you can actually go and have conversations with them, get to know them. And they hear about opportunities for internships, for grad schools. They can help make a difference. The other thing, again, I'm old, so when I went to school, we didn't have things like LinkedIn. You have that tool now, and there's a ton of alumni who are out there working in the fields you want to. And will 100% of them answer your call or your email to ask questions? No, but a lot of them will. A lot of them have been right where we are or where you are right now. They'll take a call. They'll tell you what things help them get into their career. They might even know where an opening is or an internship. So if you're not, spending some time looking through the alumni lists on LinkedIn, seeing who's going into similar careers, or if you're trying to choose your career, write to them, ask them what you like or what they like about their career, what they hate. They'll give you honest information. And so there's so many advantages we have today where you can connect with these people so easily.
Your story of connecting with your friend from SUU to get that job at the 2002 Olympics in Salt Lake, that was before LinkedIn, and that just shows the importance of networking and connecting somehow with your peers, with professors, with staff, it is vital.
And not just going to class with them, connecting with them. I mean, if you've just seen the guy once in the hallway, it's pretty hard to call up and say, a couple years later, 4 years later, hey, will you help me get this job? But I had known him. I'd worked with him. He knew me. And so I knew I could just say, here's my skills. Can you tell them I'm cool?
Yeah.
So I had to be able to say, can you tell them I'm cool? Because he knew I was.
Yeah.
And so you need to build relationships too. I was visiting with someone in my neighborhood the other day, and we figured out we'd been here at SUU at the same time. And I got all excited and started talking about all these experiences and things. And I realized she and I had an entirely different experience at SUU. All the things I was talking about and the getting engaged and all this, she just hadn't experienced. She had just gone to class and she got her degree and she was working and she's happy. Mm-hmm. But I realized you can have an entirely different experience at the same time. And the only difference is that I put in the effort to get out and go do those things. So it was because it mattered to me.
Yeah.
And it might not have mattered to her, and that's great. But it did for me, and I think it helped me with my career and my life in general.
Well, and I think even if you don't do something like student government, I mean, you're here, get the most out of it. Make the connections that are going to last a lifetime. People that you can call on and they can call on you, right?
Yeah, especially people in your major or areas where you want to work. Because they're all going to be out in the same field you are. You're going to be able to call and say, hey, have you encountered this problem before?
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of ways that they can help.
Yeah. One thing that I realized, I graduated last May, and when I stood in line to like walk into graduation, I looked around. I saw all these people that were graduating in the same major as me, and I knew maybe like 10% of them. And I was so mad that like all these people that supposedly I went to class with for 4 years, and I had no clue who they were. And so I've made a bigger effort since I've started working here at SUU to like connect with the people around me. Because like I don't want to leave SUU at whatever point and look around and see all these people that have like worked in the office next to me or worked down the hall that I never talked to. And so I think that's really important for our students that are wondering like, well, what else can I do besides just going to class? It's like, just talk to somebody.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just say hi, because they're probably just as nervous as you are sitting in like your first day of freshman class, having no clue what's going on.
Yes.
Oh.
We all were. I mean, you just want to sit there and nobody notice you for a while, right? Until you feel like you have an understanding. But the truth is, everybody feels pretty much the same, and everybody has a story. And they just want someone to say, hey, how are you? Tell me about you. And once you do, the relationships are there, and you start feeling better about your classes and study groups. Your classes even do get easier if you make the right friends, right? Because if you find people, I've worked for years. I just jump in. I don't need to know the full details before I start work. I jump in, good with ambiguity. I have another friend who needs to know every single detail before he starts. Working separately, we're not real great. Combine the two of us, I push enough that we get us going, and he slows me down enough that we actually ask the questions we need to ask. So you find someone like that in your classes. It's the same way. You find somebody who's good at maybe something you're not so good at, and you figure out that you're better together. And that works in classes and jobs.
Synergy.
It's really good.
It almost makes you feel like all the group projects actually have a purpose besides just to make you so angry.
Just to ruin your weekend.
Yeah.
Hey, can you guys meet Saturday night at 10 p.m.?
Oh,
Yeah.
I know.
Great,
I
perfect.
know. They're the worst. But also, honestly, it's one of the most real things you learn in college. Because work is just one big group project. I mean, not to spoil it for anybody, but
Yeah.
it really kind of is.
Yeah. So we touched on networking. What advice do you have for students that are wanting to network? I mean, LinkedIn, it wasn't a thing when you were in school. Like, what things should they be doing besides just talking to people in classes? What events should they be attending?
Talk to professors, talk to your fellow students, and then do some searches on LinkedIn. Set aside 30 minutes a week to find somebody who works in your area. Send them a note and say, hey, could we connect? Could I have a 15-minute call with you just to ask you a few questions? And if you're really polite and upfront about what you're doing, I think a lot of people will tell you yes. I know anybody who's ever asked me that question, I will. I've been to classes here. I've brought a stack of business cards. I've said, here's my card. If you want to talk more, call me. Maybe one or two people in that entire time have ever taken the time to call me. And I've literally given them permission and given them the card. And so you actually have to take that next step. You have to be the one who'll pick up the, phone or the email and say, hey, can we talk?
Well, and alumni always seem so happy to do that. My wife is a financial analyst, and she is on LinkedIn, and she's listed as an SUU alumna, and she has had students reach out to her. And whether it's for an assignment or whether it's for whatever purpose, I mean, she is always just jumps on it and is happy to help out. She looks forward to it. It's enriching to give back to your university in that way.
Yeah. I know a lot of us, and this is definitely true for me. I feel like I got so much from SUU. My good friends, the life I've had came from my choice to come here. And I gained so much that I want to be able to give it back in some way. Would I like to donate enough to do a building? Sure, I'd like to have that kind of money. That's not the reality of my life. But this way I can give back. So if a student called me and said, hey, can I talk to you for a few minutes? I'd say yes. I might, even if they were close, take them out for coffee. There's all these things that we can do if you're just willing to call and reach out to the alumni.
Take the first step.
Well, and that window of effortless networking, it kind of stops once you're not a student. I don't know. I feel like when you have that student tag next to your name on LinkedIn, it's like I'm more likely to answer you than if you're just somebody that's like, hey, I'd love to talk. It's like, okay, what are you selling me?
Actually,
what-
I think you're right.
So while you're a student, like really make the effort to get out and talk to people, because once that title's gone, now you're just another person working at whatever company.
Yes, I will say in the last week, I've had 3 people from that other school we're not discussing, their alumni department who are financial advisors reach out to try and connect with me, and I know what they're doing.
Yep.
They're trying to sell me, and so I connect with them, but I write back, hey, I've got an advisor I'm really happy with. I'm not looking, and I never hear from them again, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I think taking advantage now as your student's a really good idea.
Yep. People want to help students. People don't always want to help non-students.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about internships, that you got an internship. A lot of students, they hear get experience. They need an entry-level job with 10 years of experience right out of college. What are other ways that they can get experience besides just an internship?
There's a lot. There's so many organizations locally and on campus who need help. I am the chair of a nonprofit down in St. George, and we put on a conference, and we realized we needed some help. And about that time, I was up at SUU with the events class. There's an events class here. And I'd spoke to them. And I said, hey, I need some help if anybody's interested. 2 or 3 of them reached out and said, we'd like to help. So they came and helped us with this event that we put on. But we also made sure that there were specific things they could say they were in charge of. So when they went to sit down and write their resume,
Genius.
they were able to say, I led these things at a 2-day event and conference. Now, I couldn't pay them very much. In fact, almost nothing, because it was a nonprofit. But if you structure it right, then you can take that and put it as a job experience on your resume and with relevant tasks that you're going to have to do in your job. It didn't take them tons of time. I'll bet they spent 20 to 30 hours total. So it doesn't have to be a huge time thing, but the type of jobs you're searching and the types of experience you need. You can reach out. There's community organizations that can give you some of that experience, and most of them are nonprofit type. They would love to be able to do some of that. And here's the thing, too. You go there, you meet all these people who are doing cool work, and you've just impressed them. So not only did you get something to put on your resume, you can now reach out to these people when you graduate and say, here's that resume you helped me build. Do you have any connections?
Another networking opportunity.
That get you out of the school, out of the professors, into the community, which is great. And it can be in any community. It can be your hometown. If that's where you want to go back to, it can be wherever you're at.
And how much time would you say those interns that you had, or those helpers, assistants, how much time did they have to put into it?
I think, honestly, 20 to 30 hours.
Really?
Yeah,
See,
I
and
don't think it was a huge time.
Yeah, I've done assignments that take longer than that. So it's like you're literally just getting something on your resume. It's just another assignment. It's like doing extra credit.
Yeah, and and again, the networking alone is really good. Now you have to impress them, right? So you have to go in knowing you're going to have to do some things and want to step up, but it's a great experience. But even here on campus, SUU is such a great place. And I know this comes a little bit from my career background, which is more in events. There's an event here every month. There's always ways to help. Every organization here hosts certain things that have to be organized. Or the club itself has to be organized. They have to have an operating plan. They have to have budgets. All of these are things that help you in your next career. So
Perfect. So kind of final question on our main topic, at least, is if you were to be looking to add somebody to your team and you could find like the perfect fresh out of college student, entry level, what would you look for on their resume and what would you look for in a person?
first, I'd want to see somebody who's really involved, not just going to classes. It tells me so much about their ability to get out, to get to know people, to make an impression. And for my career, that matters. You know, what we sell in my company is people's experience. So I need them to have some experience so I can even hire them. Some professionalism, basic communication, which is really, I know it's harder, although AI is making it a little easier these days to write a credible email. But you need to be able to do that. I look for somebody who's a go-getter, who started something unique or made a big change where they're at and who led in a certain way. So I'd want to hear for sure that they didn't just go to clubs, that they ran and became a leader in some way. because that tells me what they'll do in the job.
Mhm. See, and I didn't hear at all in that description of they need to have this degree or this
or this
major
GPA.
or this GPA. I think it's a lot more about how you are as a person. A lot
Yeah.
more, that tells an employer more
It does.
than what your GPA was.
Yep.
So
Your
Yeah. I don't even care that somebody's GPA is on, their resume. I care much more that they did something at school besides go to class.
yeah, and how much more valuable is it if they can say like, "Oh yeah, my GPA is not great because I absolutely failed at this class and decided I didn't want to do that anymore, or had to retake it and did a lot better the next time." I think
Yes.
that shows more initiative than like you said, like I took easy classes just so I could maintain the GPA, get through school. Never really learned anything because it was pretty easy. So
Yeah.
make the most out of college.
Yes, and even early job opportunities. I worked at Starbucks. I was hiring a new data analyst, and I got this resume, and she had some experience, but then she was working at Target. And I was like, oh, but it was really a hard position to fill, so I brought her in anyway. And her experience had been in Colombia, where she lived.
Mhm.
And when she moved to the U.S. and started looking, it was a little going, but her English she could speak English fluently. Her accent was very strong. And she said, how am I going to fix this? So she took a job at Target where she had to talk to people all day, every day. And then, they get bonuses if you give out credit cards. She decided she was going to give out more than anybody else because it required her to talk more and be more persuasive. So she spent 2 years doing everything she could in that position to learn English, improve her accent, and get out. That story that she told was so much more powerful to me than anybody who'd spent their entire career doing the data analyst work.
Right.
She could do it, but it told me who she was as a person. And I hired her, and she moved up the ranks so quickly. I mean, she was amazing. But so your resume doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to have a perfect GPA. You just have to show that you're willing to go and do the cool things and the hard things to get you there.
Yeah, that sounds like that Target job was probably harder than most other like professional jobs. If that was her main goal, was to learn how to speak English
And
really
if it's
well.
something, if it's really hard for you and you're
awesome.
doing it anyway,
New country. Yeah. Well, yeah. Yep.
Okay, well, thank you. That kind of concludes our topic of what students should be doing. Let's move into this little rapid fire round. These can just be short, punchy answers, however long you want them to be. What is one skill you use every day that you didn't learn in a classroom?
how to get a copy machine unstuck. I worked for a professor here on campus who was a reading professor, and I spent every day in the library making copies. I have all over the world, I am known for somebody who can get a copy machine unstuck.
It's good to know. I'm gonna have to give you a call from the alumni office.
They don't teach you that. That's like
No.
it's like taxes, death, and a stuck copy machine are the inevitable parts of life.
But I know how to find the radius of a circle on a
Yeah,
piece of paper,
no,
right?
exactly.
So there's that. Okay, next one. Most overrated piece of career advice.
Oh, geez, get a good grade, I guess.
But you still should, right?
you got to pass, right?
Yeah.
You got to keep your scholarship if that's what your goal is. But,
I know we're gonna get a call saying all of these students are failing their classes, thinking that it's better.
But they're all having a good time.
Yeah, they're all having a great time. Okay, if you weren't in the current field that you're in, where do you think you'd be?
I have learned over the last few years how much I enjoy connecting people. And so I think I would be more in external relations, working with stakeholders and helping bring them together and finding solutions.
Awesome.
I think that's probably a through line in my career, though. I really like getting to know people and connecting with them.
Sweet. For students who feel like they're behind or unsure of their direction, what's one thing they could start doing this week?
Try new things. Keep trying new things. If you're confused, you just haven't found the thing you like yet. So keep trying the new things. Don't get too caught up in this is the path I thought I was going and I have to stick to it, because maybe you just need to change.
That seems like a whole mindset, being able to try, because it comes with a lot of failure and putting yourself out there, and maybe feeling vulnerable. What mindset's got you through that? Like what attitude has gotten you through that?
Look, I was not good at this when I was younger, I should say, and even probably when I was older. I really started in the last few years deliberately trying things that I'm crappy at. I learned how to cook. I was really terrible at it. I garden because I'm terrible at it. I kill a lot of things. But I regularly do things I'm bad at because then I'm in the learning mindset, and it's easier to learn other things as well. And I don't beat up on myself if I kill a plant. Great, I get to go to the nursery and buy a new one. I've had to reset my mind that I don't have to do everything perfectly. In fact, it's better to deliberately find things I'm bad at. So I'm actively growing, and it really has made a difference in my career as I've done that too. I've been more willing to try different things.
I think you touched on this a little bit. I think I heard you kind of mention it, but like the confidence that you get from being in the learning mindset, like once you realize that you can figure something out, then you can do the next thing and you have a little bit more confidence.
Yeah.
This is what my dad always tells me when I go work on my car and have to like figure something else out. Is like, well, now you know how to do that. And so, yeah, then when like my gas pump or my fuel pump goes out, I'm like, okay, I could probably figure this out. Where 10 years ago, I'd look at it and be like, no.
Take it to a shop.
Yeah, take it to a shop. It's like the more that you're learning, the more confident you'll get. And if you do that throughout your career,
Yeah.
and your employer comes to you and says, I need you to do this thing, you can look at them and go, I have no clue how to do it, but I know I can figure it out.
Yeah. And I've failed at this, that, and the other, so I know I can avoid those pitfalls and build off of them, right?
Yeah. And I will say one of the really fun ways to do this is travel. You get good and lost in a place where you don't speak the language and still manage to be okay.
Sounds like that's from experience.
I thought I was past it now that we have phones with maps, but I managed to get really lost in Korea last year. And so, look, it's still possible, and it still makes you feel when you solve that problem, you're like, oh, okay, this was hard. It was scary. I did it. I can do other things.
A lot of hand signs, and that's great, though. I mean, you're
and
right.
asking for help.
If you can get lost in a foreign country and manage to pull your way out of it, that's great.
I think you're a citizen at that point.
Yes.
That's just the
Honorary.
requirement.
Key to the city.
Honorary citizen.
Highly recommend getting lost.
That's good advice. Okay.
Last question of our episode.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being here. First
Thank you.
off,
It's been good fun.
what advice would you give to your younger self, starting out in college, looking at everything that you've had? And this is, this is for our students. What advice would you give to them?
Look, if I think back, I was pretty hard on younger Jamie. She had to achieve and do a lot of things, and I was pretty rough on her. And tell her to just have a little more fun. The grades matter a little less. Back to that learning mindset. It really is. And college is the very best time on earth to get into this mindset because you can try everything. Tack on an extra class once in a while that's just for fun, that has nothing to do with your major, but just because it's something you want to learn. Or sign up for a workshop. Go do something new. I was really a lot too serious. And look, it got me good places, right? So I can't totally discount them. But being free to try new and more, it definitely helps. And meet as many people as you possibly can. There's amazing stories out there. And you never know when one's going to really resonate with you.
That's awesome.
That's great life advice, not just for students. I'm going to take that advice. Thank you, Jamie.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. I think I'm going to take a lot of this to heart and try and change how I am. So
Good.
Thank
Okay.
you, Jamie, for
Thank
being on
you.
Career
Okay.
Cafe.
we'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much.